Hello, I'm Stephen Magee and welcome to episode 3 of How to Listen to Birds.
It's incredible the range there is, and you're always learning every single year, and it's great fun.
Some people describe it as a laughing bandit, so it goes ha 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 ha, I shoot you.
It's definitely an advantage to rise above the rest. You don't want to be a one-trick pony.
Yeah. We've got a bigger back catalogue than Taylor Swift.
This is How to Listen to Birds.
Right, don't worry, I haven't left the taps on. The water rushing by you can hear in the background is the water of Leith. I've popped down here for a little wander, kind of mid-morning. We're now getting towards the middle of May, and I've been treated to, I mean it's not, you know, rare or unusual things necessarily, but just like a lovely mix of sounds, because like the river's like swooshing away in the background, and just above me there's been a robin which is just always a treat to hear that golden, mellow, liquid kind of tone. But in the distance, I don't know if I'm just imagining it, but it felt like it was responding to the robin as a blackbird as well. And like for those of you who haven't listened to the other episodes of the podcast, it's probably worth going back and having a listen to episode 1, but if you want to start here, start here. I am feeling my way with birdsong, and the premise of this podcast is like, hopefully I can help other people do the same thing. And like robin and blackbird are actually two ones that you hear a lot, even in town, but they can maybe be a little bit easily confused because they're both these very melodic sounds. But the robin for me is so much more liquid, and as I say, golden. And the blackbird has, like, particularly this one, had a kind of a slightly mournful kind of tone to it to me. But it may just be that it's the middle of the morning, it's done its dawn chorus earlier on, it's lost its mojo for a bit, I don't know. Anyway, episode 3 sees me have a very nice time visiting our Abernathy Nature Reserve in the Cairngorms, and specifically meeting up with Ewan Craig, who's an assistant warden up there, at our Lochgarten Nature Centre, and having a bit of a wander and a listen to what you can hear in that amazing place. If you haven't been, please do try and visit. So, I'll be back at the end for a little bit of housekeeping and some more chat. But meanwhile, here's what I got up to at Lochgarten. We are walking through the woods at Abernathy Nature Reserve, part of Scotland's ancient Caledonian forest. It's amazing. I am with Assistant Warden Ewan Craig. Say hello, Ewan.
Hello, Stephen.
Just to give people a sense of where we are and what it's like, it's a really, really big forest. Is that fair?
That is fair to say, yes. Abernathy is the largest remnant of the Caledonian pine woods.
Yeah. And it is that kind of, if you've never been to it, for a start, get that sorted out. But if you haven't been to it, it is part of it is not just the trees, which are beautiful, and these gorgeous old Scots pines, which are kind of like gnarly and twisty and kind of like textured and amazing looking, but it's also like the understory here as well has got like juniper and all these kind of other amazing things in it, so it really feels like, and also all the trees have got stuff growing on them, so it feels like life heaped on life heaped on life.
Yeah, that's the diversity that makes ancient woodlands so special, so important, and so magical, really, in my opinion.
Right, well, we are going to go and see what we can hear in these magical woodlands. I am not going to tempt fate. There is one thing I'm hoping to hear, and if we hear it, I will tell you. If we don't hear it, I'll maybe say disappointedly at the end what it is, but let's see what we can find.
Let's have a listen.
So there was a little rusty, kind of like really busy guy there. What's that?
That's a siskin. Very chattery song. Lots going on in it, isn't it? Very busy.
It was very busy. So a siskin, for people who don't know, is like it's a finch.
Yeah, it's a little finch.
It's a little finch. It's like people quite often confuse it with green finch, right?
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more delicate and
It's quite a bit smaller than green finch,
Yeah.
but similar greenish yellowish colours. The male is much more striking, quite yellow with a red black cap. The female is duller brownish green, streaky, and it's the male that sings. And some people might find the song reminiscent of a goldfinch. They're not too distantly related.
Yeah,
They used to be in the same genus. Now they're separate.
it's
but
got
they're
that
still
same metallic
close.
poppy kind of like really busy feel of a goldfinch.
Yeah.
But also like, so it's another interesting example, isn't it? Like a song is not wholly consistent, so it had little phrases in it. It had like busy, 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 and then there'd be a pause, and then a couple of times it went and that's a bit more kind of green finchy, isn't it? I suppose, like, isn't that kind of like almost like metal on metal kind of sound?
Yeah, and that's distinctive of the siskin. It's almost like a stuck pig, that squeal. So when I was learning the song of siskin, I would hear that chattering up and down, and I would
Like
think
a
it's
very
probably a siskin, but I wasn't quite sure until I heard that squealing.
like a very small stuck pig at the top of a tree.
Exactly,
It's like,
exactly
you know,
right,
just
yeah.
like you would hear, but and like again, and this is something we might talk about as we go around. That is a bird that was right up in the top of like a big tree in front of us.
Yeah, these trees are probably over 20 metres tall, 25 metres maybe.
So if we hadn't heard it, we wouldn't have known it was there.
There's no way we'd have seen that, no. Unless it flew past, in which case we've seen a little black speck flying past.
Nice. Right, onwards and upwards. Yeah, we just had a flyby from a chaffinch. For a start, describe the song for people.
The song of the chaffinch is sort of cascades down and ends in a little sneeze at the end, like achoo. Also, some people describe it as a laughing bandit, so it goes ha 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 ha, I shoot you.
I would like to know who's in charge of all these things, because
Well.
you know, obviously what that sounds like to me is ha 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 ha, I'll shoot you. But I can see what they mean, because it has got that little bounce at the end, right?
Yeah, that little flourish. And chaffinch is one of the two most common songbirds that we find here in the forest on the reserve, up there with coal tit. They're everywhere really. They're just a soundtrack to Abernathy.
Yeah, and actually, in the same little bit behind it, there was a coal tit as well.
Yeah.
And the coal tit is, like some people might be familiar with great tit because it goes teacher, 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 the coal tit is kind of the same, but how's it different?
Yeah, it's very similar. When I first came to Abernathy, I thought I was hearing lots of great tits, and I thought they sounded different somehow, and then I realised they were actually coal tits. So it's a smaller bird, so to me the sound is a smaller sound, and it's a much sweeter sounding song. Your listeners may or may not understand what I mean by that, but that's the feeling I get listening to it.
I think it's less insistent,
Yes.
and a bit more melodic, right?
Yeah,
So
quite
it's
right.
so it's got that like beep 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 beep. Whereas the teachers like the great tits like I am for a tit, right? I am quite a large bird, and I'm making a
Yes.
big noise.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you look at you can look at the sonograms of bird recordings, and that can show you the shape of the songs. That can be quite a useful tip for learning them. In the great tit, the two notes are very distinctive. Each one is a separate note and the same. Whereas the coal tit, actually, if you look at the sonogram, you can see that the two notes slide into each other slightly. And once I see that on the sonogram, I can actually start hearing that when I listen to the bird. It's just sort of the two notes sort of slide together, quite as you say, melodically.
Yeah. And so you were saying to me when we were walking down that so you come and do surveys in the woods, like to see what birds are here, because obviously it's really important when you're managing a reserve, right, to know what's on it, what isn't on it, how that's changing.
Absolutely.
It's the guts of the science of any reserve is like breeding bird surveys, right? When you come like in the morning at this time of year, how many of the things that you're counting are chaffinches and coal tits?
A good proportion, more than half, I would say,
Yeah.
are those two species. And the songs is really key to those surveys. We could stand here in this wood for half an hour and not see anything. Like we were talking about that siskin we saw earlier, when it's right at the top of the trees there, tiny little bird hidden in the branches, almost impossible to see and even harder to actually identify. Whereas the songs, that's the whole point of a song, is it carries far, it tells everybody or anything that's listening who is singing. So if I know the bird songs and bird calls, then I can spend 5 minutes out in the woods, sun shining on a lovely spring morning, listening to birds. Sounds terrible, doesn't it, Stephen?
So it's like such an imposition. But no,
and it tells me what is present on the reserve, what we've got here now. And if we do that in the future, we'll be able to tell how things are changing with the management, with the restoration work that we are doing here at Abernathy.
You know, one of the things I think is really interesting about it as well is that so the birds sing, at least in part, like territorially, right? So
Yeah.
like, I mean, like, so I guess most of the birds that are singing here at this time of year are either singing to defend or declare a territory or to attract a mate or both at the same time.
Exactly,
Is
yeah.
that right? Okay. So the bird is saying, this is my patch, here I am, to other birds.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want to understand the bird world, right, i.e. how many there are, what they're doing, how many territories there are, then we need to think like a bird, right?
Exactly.
You
We
know,
need
and
to
a bird wouldn't work out
communicate
how
like
many. That's why they sing, right? Because they're not going to be able to see how many birds, and so we're being like birds, which actually is kind of cool.
It is very much cool to tune into that level of non-human communication and to have that awareness of the other life forms that we share this world with.
Even if it is 5 o'clock in the morning when you have to do it.
It's worth it for the experience, I'll be honest. Even it can be a struggle getting out of bed, but once I'm out there, it's an amazing thing to go and do.
So in amongst all these chaffinches and coal tits, there was very briefly there, like a really intense kind of like a metallic rattle kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So what was that?
That was a Goldcrest, which is jointly our smallest native bird. It weighs about the same as a 5p piece.
Jeez.
And it's just a very high-pitched call. Some people are not able to actually hear the Goldcrest because it's too high-pitched. It goes beyond the range of hearing. For the rest of us, it's just at the very edge, the very top of our range. And that looked to me like two birds having a fight, having a territorial scrap between neighbours. That's why it was quite so intense, because they were fighting. They were shouting at each other.
And again, that is, like you say, the UK's smallest bird, right? In quite, not at the top to be fair that time, but quite high up some mature trees. No way would have known that was there unless it was making that noise.
No, absolutely not. You know, there's a real value in opening our ears to the soundscapes of the woods. You know, even beyond the value that we get for our survey work, just the value that I get personally going for a walk. I don't need to use my eyes. I can't really use my eyes to understand what's here. It's my ears that tell me what's around me in the woods, that's letting me build up that picture of what I'm sharing these woods with.
Now, the sun has just come out from behind the clouds. It's kind of one of those days, the sun's coming in and out, and these trees in front of us are all backlit. They look amazing. But the sound level it seemed to me to slightly go up when that happened. Is that just my perception, or is that true?
The weather does very much affect the activity of birdsong and bird calls. You know, just like you and me, when the sun comes out, we feel the warmth and we feel good and we feel more active and energetic. So do the birds. They've got that energy to be sitting on a branch belting out their song, or feeding, or chasing each other around, or whatever it is they're doing. And when the sun goes away, or if the weather was to turn and the rain showers were to come in, they're much more like to hunker down, and if the weather's bad, they're just going to sit tight and conserve energy. They don't want to waste energy in that point. And that's another factor in what a song is. It's a deliberate waste of energy in a way. The bird's not spending time feeding, it's not spending time staying warm, it's out on a branch, it's being loud, it's being active, often early in the morning.
So it's a deliberate waste of energy. It's like
in a way,
choice.
you could put it that way. The bird is demonstrating it's a really fit individual that has energy to spare, that shows that it will be able to provide for a family, for young chicks, because it can waste energy by singing.
It's which I think it's like a disco, isn't it? It's like an audio. It's like I can throw shapes. I can, it's similar kind of a thing. Yeah. So I had said at the beginning of our chat that there was one thing I was hoping to get, but I wasn't going to jinx it. And I'll have to check the recordings when we get back, right? But I think we have got it, so... So this is Stephen popping up again post-recording. I did definitely get it, but there's a chaffinch trying to get in the way. So the noise you're listening for is the really fast brr brr kind of a noise. Metallic kind of chink 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 noise is the chaffinch. The brr brr noise is the bird that we're listening for. A very intense kind of like a very fast bubbling kind of slightly lasery sound, which is
A crested tit,
which is a massive speciality for here, right?
Yeah, it's one of the highlights of the pine woods. If you're a birder, because they're only found in these sorts of conifer forests. So in the UK, you only find them in the Scottish Highlands, places like Abernathy. Lochart is probably one of the best places for visitors to come and see them or hear them. In our case, we didn't really see it, did we, Stephen? Just heard it.
In fact, they are so identified with here that I can testify that if you walk around here with an RSPB branded jacket on, everybody will come up to you and say, "Have you seen any crested tits?" But they are, look, they're have a look at one online, right? They are a stunning looking bird with a big old crest, like a crazy kind of like fairy icing, fairy cake kind of like crest thing on their head, and busy, active, kind of like, nice things to see. And that sound is very intense.
Yeah, they're quite chattery sometimes.
Yeah.
Quite insistent, persistent perhaps. It's quite distinctive as well, so it's a really nice one to identify by sound, because it is relatively easy. It makes the same sound every time once you tune into the particular characteristics, it doesn't really sound like anything else. It's very much so. You're talking about visitors wanting to know where they are.
Yeah.
You can seem really impressive by pointing them out by sound. It's people think you're some sort of guru of birdsong, even if that's the only birdsong you actually know. So in a way, they characterise the place because they're specialists of this particular environment, and it's those specialists that you really make a place really important. And being able to spot those is it rounds out the experience of being in a place like this.
And rounds out our day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. It's been a pleasure.
So Ewan Craig asserted there that he's not a guru of birdsong. I would disagree. Certainly, I would not have heard and identified half the things that we're cutting about up there without Ewan's help. So thanks to him for that. And as previously discussed, Abernathy is an amazing place to visit if you get the chance. That Lochgarten Nature Centre is full of things to do and interpretation and walks and all kinds of great stuff. I'll put the link to the information about the Nature Centre into the show notes. So we are 3 episodes in. I think there's going to be 6 or 7 in total. Still aiming to get them out once a week, so do keep an eye on the feed. One thing that I'd said I'd do last time is just do a little recap at the end of the podcast of some of the species we'd heard for those of you who are trying to groove some of these species in. So on our garden trip we had a very noisy siskin, which included that weird kind of long drawn out metallic sound to make. Where the chaffinch characterised as the laughing bandit by Ewan. We had a very short burst of Goldcrest, which was kind of like high and angry sounding. And the thing that I really wanted to get was the crested tit, which was slightly obscured by chaffinch, but definitely audible if you try hard. So next week's episode, we're going to be delving a bit deeper, not just into which birds are singing, but into why they're singing, and actually some of the different sounds that birds make that aren't song. So keep an eye out in the feeds for that. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, leave a review. It helps people find us in the podcast jungle. If there are questions you have or things you want the podcast to cover, please get in touch, podcast.scotland@rspb.org.uk. That email address is in the show notes. And that is all for this week. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.